hating on you with their friends, girl, you got it.
Hey y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, as y'all can tell from the thumbnail, we are going to do a Valentine's Day look. So let's get into this glam. So as always, I've already started with a clean face, and we're going to use some Duo Lash Glue and our spoolie to brush through those brows and lay them down. After you brush them, just pat them down so that way they can be flat. Now, this is my model y'all gonna be seeing all the time. People on my TikTok and my Instagram, they already know. But I actually have not done her makeup in a few weeks. Actually, probably about 2 months. So we're gonna color match her again just to make sure we get the perfect color. I always do these swatches for everybody, no matter how much I've done your makeup, just to make sure that your foundation doesn't change. So I'm one of those MUAs that always start with brows, but since the eye look is so bold today, I actually did not start with her brows, which makes me nervous, but we're gonna figure it out. So I'm just gonna take my Too Faced concealer and I'm gonna conceal the bottom part of her eyebrows with a flat brush I got from Shein. Then you're gonna do the same thing on the other side, and I'm just concealing her eyebrows like I would as if I filled them in already. This technique is used to get a softer brow, so that way it's not as bold at the end. It looks a little bit more natural when you do it this way. Now I'm taking Too Faced concealer in the shade Cookie, and I'm just going to conceal the tail end of her eyebrow. When doing eyebrows, try not to rush. Take your time. I've done her makeup a bunch of times, so I automatically know the shape of her brows. But if you move slower, you can get a crisper line, and there's less chance that you will mess up. I'm going to take that lighter concealer and just put it all over her lid so I can use it as a base. And as y'all can see, I go through with the eyebrows as many times as I need to so that way I can make sure that they're perfect. After applying the concealer to the entire lid, I'm going to take a Real Techniques blending brush and I'm just going to tap all over her lid to blend out that concealer, starting in the front with the darker concealer and then moving my way to the lighter concealer and blending out the outsides. Since we're using bolder eyeshadows and I want the eyeshadow to stand out a little bit more, I use a white concealer, which is in the shade Cloud from Too Faced, and I just tap that all over the lid. I use concealer because it's the same formula as what she already has on her eyes, and it's going to blend in a little better. After you blend out your eyeshadow base, set it with some translucent powder. I use the RCMA No Color Powder, but you can use whatever you have. Just try not to set it too much. Now, I made a mistake and put that pink down before I put the hearts because I had forgot, but I laid the hearts down above her cut crease because that's just where I want it. I got these stickers from Michael's. I always go to Michael's to get stickers. I actually tried to put these on with my fingers, but it just wasn't working. So I grabbed my tweezers and I just laid them down how I wanted them to go. Then I finally got into the eyeshadow. So I wanted to do like a checkerboard kind of look with the pink and red. So I started with the pink on the inner corner of her eyes, and I used a fluffy blending brush to blend it out since I'm only using one shade of pink. After you get that pink to the pigment you want, just place the pink on the outside of her eye, underneath the tail part of her eyebrow. I just placed it on exactly like I did in the front part, just tapping it on and lightly blend it out. Now you see that little space in the middle? I left that so that way I can put this red directly in the middle. I did that so that way it's easier to blend out with both sides of the pink. I mainly like to tap on my eyeshadow pigment and then tap it to blend it out, so I make sure the color is concentrated right where I would do the cut crease. I zoomed in so you guys can really see the detail. I took that same concealer cloud on a nail art pencil. This one you can get from Amazon. And I just started in the front and I started to drag it so that way I can create the shape of the cut crease I wanted. This is actually a different shape than I did on the other eye and I had to go back and redo it. I think that is so crazy because this left eye came out perfect. Like that was the perfect cut crease. Y'all see I did one swipe, one and done. I actually don't mind when I make mistakes for video purposes, so what I go through and do is I wipe off the excess concealer with a Q-tip and then I go through and just fill in where I need the eyeshadow to be and I do my cut crease all over again. It's very easy. So it's okay if you mess up on your makeup looks. If you need to start over, it's makeup. You can fix it, start over, and do it again. It is okay to make mistakes. It is okay to mess up. It is okay to not know what you're doing. This look is a freestyle. I had no clue what I was doing, but I kept going. I used a really small flat brush so that way I can add the eyeshadow and not get too crazy with my placement. I also use a separate brush for my red eyeshadow. After I filled in the eyeshadow, I just went back through and did my cut crease all over. As y'all can see, I was a little bit more careful with this right eye since I had already messed up. I don't want to keep going over my eyeshadow. After I went over that cut crease a few times and I felt like it was perfect, I just went through and filled in the lid with some white concealer in Cloud again. After I use a Real Technique brush dupe, this is a flat fluffy eyeshadow brush to blend out the excess concealer I have on her lid. After I get that completely blended out, I take my red eyeshadow on a different brush but the same type of brush and I laid that red down in the front part of her eye, and then I used a different brush just so I can get closer to that cut crease line. In order to get my sharp lines and my blending lines, you're going to see me do two different types of eyeshadow techniques today. You're going to see me tap on eyeshadow, but you're also going to see me slide the eyeshadow brush so that way I can get a sharper line. I'm just going to repeat the same thing I did on the left eye to the right eye. This way y'all can see what I did a little bit better. So you can see I'm sliding the eyeshadow, but I'm also patting at the same time so I can blend it out. I wanted to do halo lid shadow, so I'm taking that pink I used on the cut crease and I'm just using that on both sides of the red on the inside of her eyelid. Now, as you can see with the red, I didn't go all the way up to the cut crease, but I will go all the way up with the pinks. I had no clue what I was doing, but I did like the effect that this gave me to the eyeshadow. On the middle, I literally took the lightest pink I had in any of my palettes, and I just tapped that on with a blending brush so that way it would blend out. Now I go back and forth between the pink and the red and that really, really light pink just so I can make sure everything is blended. Make sure you're using different eyeshadow brushes for each color so that way you know each color is going to pop out on its own. After I got her lid how I wanted, I just went through with those same brushes I used to fix my cut crease to highlight those lines and make it pop out a little bit more. I decided to do a checkerboard effect with the liner, so I took a different nail brush and some Vaseline and I drew exactly where I wanted her liner to be. Then I went to go clean it up with a lip brush and a cotton swab. Then I took the same brush I did the cut crease with and I just drew a line with my cloud concealer again so that way I can lay my eyeshadows on top. I used the same type of flat concealer brush I used for her eyebrows, and I just patted out the concealer so that way I could take off the excess. I wiped it off and used that same brush to lay down my pink eyeshadow at the tail end of that liner and at the front part of the liner closest to her eye. I used that same small flat brush I used to clean up the red eyeshadow just to pat on the eyeshadow for the liner. I did small taps just so I can get the sharpest line I can with this eyeshadow. I was really scared I would mess up the eyeshadow. I went back in with that pink eyeshadow just to blend it together. Before I took the hearts off, I wanted to do some shadow around them just so I could make sure they were a little bit more bold. So I took a darker pink eyeshadow and I went around the pink hearts, and then I took a really dark brown and I went around the red hearts because I didn't really have a really super dark red and I didn't want to use a purple. After I took the hearts off, I just went through with a small nail brush again with a different concealer, which is actually closer to her skin tone, and I filled in the middle parts of those hearts just so I can make them more bolder. Then I took that same nail brush and a really light amount of white concealer, and I went over that line I did above the red eyeshadow. Then I continued to her face routine. I'm gonna tell y'all now, my phone got filled up with storage, so the end part of this tutorial did not record. I am so sorry. I will do a whole separate video just dedicated to the face. I started her face just by cleaning off all the red eyeshadow because I'm gonna be honest, I have so much fallout when I do makeup. I will never do eyeshadow last. Then I applied about 4 products for her skin prep, and I used my brush to pat her skin prep products into her skin. I usually use my hand sometimes, but depending on how I'm feeling, I don't want to touch too many products. Taking her foundation in that same flat brush we did her eyebrows with, I'm just going to make swatches all over her face for her foundation, and then I'm going to blend it out with a Real Technique brush. I'm going to go over the top of her eyebrow with some foundation so that way the eyebrows are not bold, because we do not want bold eyebrows with this look. I'm going to take the Juvia's Place contour sticks and I'm going to place it on her forehead and her cheeks and blend that out with that same foundation brush. I'm going to take my Mocha Makes blush stick and I'm going to put this right above where I put that contour. I wanted to use this because it is a beautiful mauve pink shade I usually use on my dark skin girls, but I wanted it to be super pink on her cheeks. I'm going to take my Too Faced concealer in the shade Cookie and I'm just going to place this underneath her eye without going over her blush. I'm going to use the same brush I used for her foundation and to conceal her eyebrows. I'm placing this color under her eye, on her chin, up her nose, and right above her eyebrows. Using a Real Technique brush, I'm just going to tap this up and down her nose so that way I can get her highlighter still in the same place. I'm going to use my foundation brush to tap out the concealer on her chin and also the edges of the concealer I put underneath her eyes. I'm not going to blend out the concealer I put right underneath her eyes. We're going to leave that on her eyes so that way it can dry a little bit and create more coverage. Y'all, I had so much more planned for her eyeshadow, but it started snowing outside and I'm not finna get snowed in at the studio. I'm going to take warm beige and I'm just going to use that underneath her eyes for a little brightness. This is actually what I use for her concealer most of the time, but I didn't want to go too bold. I'm going to take that same contour stick I used to contour her face to contour her nose. Y'all, this is where the video cuts off, but if you want to know how I do my faces, just get my $10 ebook. It's on Etsy. It'll show y'all how I do my faces every single time. But this is the finished look, and I absolutely loved it. I still wish I could do more. I added a little bit of rhinestones underneath her eyes and on her cut crease. As y'all can see, this look still ate, so like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Bye, y'all.